So I was recently watching this news report from Russia Today on how the US government backs the TOR project. And I was thinking, yeah, this is not exactly brand new news, despite coming out a couple of weeks ago. Well, let's say 1st of March 2018. Unfortunately, looking back at this article from The Guardian, when is this dated? Just trying to find a date now. 29th of July 2014. So, US government increases funding for TOR, giving 1.8 million in 2013. So not exactly brand new news, despite what we're seeing nowadays. But is it safe to say it's entirely funded by the US government? Well, no. I would actually disagree on that point. I mean, it may be a substantial quantity, but you do have this button here that says donate, and that could be supported by individual donors. In fact, it's been quite difficult to get an idea of what sponsorship the TOR project actually receive. We have active sponsors in 2017, and we have things like Google, Mozilla, various universities, so perhaps we could take the universities as being the US government. A company called Fastly, now they're more like a content delivery network. SRI International, not sure who they are. And we've got the US Department of State Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labour. Okay, so that's a fair bet. That is the US government there. And Team Cymru, well, that's a UK-based company. So, not entirely US government funded, but it could still be a vast amount. So why have the US government got their sticky fingers in this? And just how bad do they really have their sticky fingers in this? So there's not exactly a vast amount of information on the website that literally details percentages of donations received. I'm looking here at the Form 1023. I'm not an expert on US tax detailing at all. I know they're a not-for-profit company, but I think they do still have to declare records. Just looking here, it's saying that it's the EFF project who own it, the Electronic Frontier Foundation project who own TOR. And a bit of an explanation of what they're doing. So the scope of the organisation's research includes online security, privacy, anonymity, all of which will be peer-reviewed by academics working on the cutting edge of internet security. Fair enough. Support for this research work has come in the past from the government, private and charitable entities around the world. It is expected that such diversity of support will continue as described in response to... So, okay, fair enough. They're still mentioning the US government here at this point, as well as other organisations. Now, going back to the earlier news from around 2013-2014, we have this article following the money of TOR funding. So it sets out how the TOR project initially began. So yes, it was a US naval project. And then taken over by the Defence Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. That was in 1997. And then in 2004, the project begins cooperation with the Electronic Frontier Foundation and becomes open source at around that time. In 2006, the NSA begins research into mapping and analysing the TOR network for the possibility of passively identifying users. The NSA publishes its first study of TOR, or first internal study of TOR. And TOR receives funding from a few different agencies there. In 2007, a Swedish programmer uncovers illegal snooping of government and corporate data via TOR. TOR's first major criminal activities alarms authorities. And we actually have a percentage from the US government here. So 2007 it was 75%, 2008 83%, 2009 92%, with actually the revenue growing. In fact, growing quite substantially there between 2008 and 2009. And 2010, so we've got the same sort of figure in terms of percentage, but the funding level has grown. And 2011 is actually reduced slightly, but the overall revenue has remained the same. In fact, it's reduced further in terms of percentage, but we can see the revenue quantity is still growing. And 2013 was actually probably a high point of government funding, with the overall total for the year being 2.8 million and 93% from the US government. So a good point of TOR should be it helps individuals or journalists, reporters in countries that are heavily monitored on the internet usage, so that would be any Western country. No, most countries in the world. No, probably some other countries. Wasn't it Egypt at one time was doing such things as that? Just to name one off the top of my head. It's to help those individuals in heavily monitored countries be able to communicate. I'm not going to cover any aspects of how TOR actually works. It is just to consider an anonymization service. It's not like a VPN, it is anonymization through the routers, adding layers or onion layers of security so you don't know the end-to-end point of communication, or it should be impossible to tell the end-to-end point of communication. I believe, though, that ways have been uncovered that prolonged usage will give an idea of where the source and destination points actually are of the communication. And I think we could look at such things as the Silk Road case. Although there could be some old-fashioned police work here, but it's very interesting of how Ross Ulbricht, or Dread Pirate Roberts, was actually nabbed in a library. The agents in the case went over and nabbed his machine and caught him in a physical location. You think, how can that possibly be done if you were using an anonymization service? That, for me, has been very interesting. How it was actually done. I've read through some of the notes here, and I think excuses have been made. So anyway, you've got, on one hand, the service is being sponsored and paid for in the vast quantity via the US government, and on the other hand, we have US government agencies, three-letter agencies, reverse engineering it and looking at how it is used. So I think what I would say about it is, yes, Tor is an anonymization service. Is it a perfect anonymization service? I would not count on it. If you're doing something that you're just concerned with the privacy, that you don't want the website that you're visiting to know it is actually you, then yeah, Tor is okay for that. If you're doing something that is going to land you in a situation like that, then I would say Tor probably isn't the answer to that. Yeah, that's a bit of news that how the US government is doing a large sponsorship of Tor. And yes, we have quite a few documents here about the situation. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all later.